We finished up. We kind of got our program broken down into 4 segments. Number 1 segment, you get your winter conditioning in. We started in January and ended last week before spring break. Thought it went well. Thought our players made great gains as far as strength and agilities and that type of thing, which is what you try to get done at that point. And now we're going into our second phase, or our second quarter, as we call it, which is spring football. And it's important, with the expectations, and these guys are feeling pretty good about themselves, that they got to make sure that we do the 3 things we talked about, all last year. When you had success like this, the number 1 thing you worry about as a head football coach is complacency setting in, with the players and coaches, and everybody's feeling pretty good about themselves. So it's my job as a head coach to make sure that doesn't happen. We've got to make sure we remain an unselfish football team, and got to maintain that we're accountable to each other and with our actions on and off the field. So those 3 things have got to happen in order for us to have the kind of success that we have to have and what we expect to do. And then, of course, just having 15 practices, we got to make sure that we go out there every day and walk off that field a better football team as individuals and also a team. So got a lot of work to do. I know I'm excited. The coaches are excited to get back out there tomorrow. Weather's going to be great. It's going to get warmer towards the end of the week, so we're looking forward to it. So at this time, we'll take any questions and answer anything that you have.
What position battles are you looking forward to see this week?
I think there's a lot of them. I think we got the team back last night, and we talked about there's some players. It's their time to step up and become players. And we talk about it all the time with our program. There's no place to hide in this program. If you don't like where you are, change what you're doing. And there's some athletes out there. There's some young players out there it's time for them to step up and help this football team. And the Massaquoys, the Armands Daniels, a lot of players, just to mention a few, Josh Brown, a lot of the younger players, they need to step up so we can count on them. We can trust them to go in there and be able to play and help this football team take that next step. So, we challenge a lot of guys. We know the Corey Tindalls are players, and the Darryl Roberts, the Catos, and all those guys, but in order for us to get where we want to go, those young players have to develop, and it's their job to make sure they develop along with the older leadership on this football team, that they drag those guys along. So to answer, I think the quarterback situation is critical. I think we all know Cato, he can play, but we got to get a backup. I mean, it's if you don't have that guy at that position, that's an issue. So those 3 guys are going to get a lot of reps, and we got to make sure that we do a great job as coaches. And we've talked about that this morning with our practice schedules, to put those 3 players in as many situations as we can to come out of spring ball with a guy that's capable of going in and playing. So that's number 1. Of course, the offensive line, some of those young guys need to develop, and just everywhere else. All those young players, the more depth we can have. And I think our special teams were a lot better a year ago, and just having younger athletes that can run around out there will help that position too.
Have you seen a difference mentally from these 3 quarterbacks, knowing they've had a couple months to digest the fact that they're going to be in the spotlight? They handled it pretty well.
Yeah, Keith, I don't think there's any question. I've seen it for a lot of years I've coached, that kids react different when it's their turn. And now all of a sudden there's an opportunity for somebody to step up and be the guy, and I'm anxious to see who that is. I mean, competition's a great thing. With Gunner and Kevin and Cole, all 3 of those guys have worked extremely hard, and like I say, it's going to be critical for us, Billy, along with that offensive staff, to put these kids in a situation that we can determine who that guy is going to be, because it's going to be critical for the success of this football team.
Any formula in rotating the reps between those 3 backups among the first team, second team, or whatnot? Or
Yeah, I don't know, Doug. I think that just give him equal reps initially. I mean, if somebody becomes a clear-cut guy early, I mean, and of course he's going to get more reps, but we need to, we know not that Cato doesn't need reps in spring. He's got to get better too in all areas, but we kind of know what he can do to an extent. So there's probably going to be times where he may be sitting over there coaching and watching and helping coach those young guys and them getting more reps, because it's critical this spring that we do come out of there again with a backup, and all 3 of those guys are going to need to get reps early, and then hopefully by halfway through spring or whatever, we get it down to just a couple of them, and maybe by the end even down to 1. So we'll just try to create as many situations as we can. We're going to go, for example, tomorrow we've added 5 more minutes to 7-on-7 tomorrow and Thursday, which will give us more reps for those kids.
So that is your goal, number 2 by the end of spring. You don't want leaking into fall.
Well, you'd like to. I mean, obviously, I'd like to be able for that to happen. It could, if it's, I've been around a while. When you think you've got more than 2 quarterbacks, chances are you don't have any. Or if you got more than one, you don't have any. If you think you got 2, you don't have any. But even as a backup situation, if it's that close throughout spring with all 3 of them, chances are we don't have a backup. I mean, that's kind of the way things go. And I think it's critical that one of those guys rises up pretty quick. I mean, because if we got 3 of them, they're all about the same, chances are we don't have any. And so I think that early on that we're going to have to find out which one steps up, and I expect that to happen.
You look at some of the guys, and I'll look at, Angelo and Deontay got to practice a little bit toward bowl season. How important is that for them going into this spring? Does that make them more comfortable going in?
I don't think there's any question. We got number one, just having the opportunity to get those guys out there. I think it was 6 or 7 times. I don't know exactly, but as coaches, we found out pretty quick they can play. So they number one, they've got all the athletic ability to go play. They've had a great winter. I mean, they've improved tremendously as far as strength and all that goes all along. And those guys are going to get thrown into the fire early because we've got to come up with an outside receiver that can go make plays. And then, of course, with Gator being gone, Devin and Fro are both back, but McManus offers another option in there of an athletic guy that's big and strong that can run and go catch the ball.
A couple guys that came in last year, Donovan Manning and Ricardo Williams, they were able to practice all year. Does the switch have to flip for them where they're coming into a season where they got to play?
Well, it does for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, and those guys are expected to play. I mean, Manning and again, with those guys having that off season with us and the mats and the weights and all that has been and the skill development that we've had throughout that winter conditioning has been great. And we like both those guys, and they're going to get a lot of reps here early to see what they could do. But with Bazzie and JT being gone, then Rico is critical to add depth to that defensive end position. And, of course, we can't, with what Chuck likes to do with our defense, we can't get enough corners out there on the field. So that'll help us.
You're talking about guarding against complacency. It seems that you have guys like the Catos and the Schulers and the Jasperses and the Rouses who I think might not allow that to reach a critical level. How do you feel your veteran guys are going to be in kind of helping keep that at bay?
Well, there's no doubt that the reason we became a good football team a year ago was because of the leadership that was developed throughout the year, and we were better there at the end than we were all year long because of that. But we've got this time last year, I couldn't name a handful of guys I felt that way about, but there's a lot of them out there right now. The Rouses and Corey Tyndall was a freshman, but he did a great job with the leadership part of it. Darryl Roberts, you look at those linebackers. McKelvey had a tremendous year, probably our best year as a player, but he's out there that's played a lot of football. So, they're not going to let that. But kids are kids. When you walk around, you guys tell them how good they are, and they walk down the street and everybody's patting their ass on the back for 3 months. They're feeling pretty good about themselves, and it's just my job to make sure that doesn't happen. But having senior leadership and all that on the team is going to be a lot better. Having that offensively, we got a couple. Jaspers is in that same mold along with Cato and Schuler and Frohnapple and Swede. Swede had a tremendous year. So there's a lot of. It's great as a coach it was great to walk in that meeting last night and look and see those guys sitting in there because you got a chance.
Talk about Swede a little bit. Are there any of the interior linemen that you're looking to move outside possibly?
Swede will go outside initially. And to be honest, he may be a better tackle than he is a guard because he's our most athletic player up front. I mean, he can run. He's very athletic. He's long. So, I mean, he could possibly be a better tackle than he even was a guard because of his athleticism. But what that does, it allows, Cheese went in and played well in that bowl game. He's more of a road grader type guy that we'd like inside at guard, along with Selby. We get Cody Collins in there. We got D's back. We got I'm missing somebody there, Selby. We got those guard types in there, but then of course you got Van Horn. This Addison kid, I don't know if he can play or not, but he looks the part. He's long and he's athletic and he's a great kid that we'll throw out there at tackle right now. And we got Van Horn and Tom Collins and Sandley. Sandley's going to be a really good player, a good prospect. So we got some athletic, long bodies at tackle. And I feel like we got some guards in there that can help us. But moving him out there will get our best 5 on the field initially.
It seems with Sweet, seems to be a very quick learner, going from a very little used backup to starter, and now it seems like you're looking at the same kind of output from him, moving him from inside out.
I think he'll be a better, again, I told Alex, I think he'll be a better tackle than he was a guard. But he's just a great, I mean, I don't know how many you guys had a chance to spend much time with that kid, but he's a great story. He's a great kid. There's not a harder worker on our football team, and he's got it. I mean, he's become a leader. I mean, he just, for a guy that hadn't played any football, and I didn't think he could play for 2 years, all of a sudden that light went on, and he's been a tremendous asset to our university and to our program. He's a great kid.
Where he had a limited high school experience in the game of football, does that help with? He doesn't have to unlearn a bunch of stuff that was taught to him several years ago. He's just basically been coached by you all once he got here.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of bad habits. He just didn't know how to play the game, and which, football is one game, a little different than basketball and baseball. That I don't think you have to start real young. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are playing, even in the NFL and the college game, that didn't play a lot, in high school. So, as you mentioned, he didn't have a whole lot of bad habits, but Alex Mirabal did a tremendous job bringing him along, and as he does all his kids, and he's become a really good player for us.
Talk about the move of DJ Hunter back to linebacker.
I think we're just trying to get our best players on the field. DJ he does a better job playing in the box in the second level than he did the third level. Things don't happen quite as quick up there, but it also gives us a more athletic person on that second level that Chuck can do some things with. We may not be quite as much nickel as we were because DJ can go out and be, even though he's a Sam, it's no different than the nickel position, and play some of that, but allows us to put Corey Tyndall out to corner. Corey will probably see more corner this spring just to get him out there because he can always come back in and play nickel. So it gives us some flexibility with the defense, and we're trying again to get our best 11. We're going to take Stephon Houston and start him out inside to give us a little bit more depth inside, put DJ at Sam along with Waiters, so we'll have some guys that can run there at that Sam position.
Because I was going to ask, looking at the move with Hunter and Tyndall, you've seen him starting at both positions. Do you see yourself moving more toward a three linebacker set?
Well,
more often, or is it just kind of a thing?
No, it's just we're three linebackers at time, but DJ Hunter is a safety playing linebacker, which he can play in space, and a lot of it will depend on. We want to take Taquan Lang and move him to nickel. We're just trying to do some things in the spring that when fall rolls around, you got a little flexibility back there with your nickels and your corners, and you got to have, with what Chuck's doing defensively, you got to have a nickel and two corners that can match up and play man coverage. I have to be able to do that and play and take the space out of things so where people can't take the easy access throws, and that's what I thought we did a great job of a year ago, was eliminating easy access throws, getting enough guys in the box to help the run, and we became a much better defense. So, we're able to, get Corey out at that corner and getting some other, DJ can match up at times against a tight end or at times against a guy in the slot, and just to get our best people on the field and provide more flexibility for us once we get to the fall.
DJ moving to linebacker sort of eliminates the things like the Middle Tennessee game where they try and trap you on personnel changes and just run the ball basically toward Corey whenever he was a little bit undersized out there then.
Yeah, and that wasn't as much Corey as it was. We didn't put an edge on the defense. I mean, that was our biggest issue with Middle Tennessee is we didn't tackle very well. We didn't put an edge on the defense, and we had a couple issues with backside A-gap on a couple things. So I'm not sure that DJ will help be a little bit more physical presence, but Corey will put his nose on you, and he's a physical guy that tackles really well in space. So that wasn't our major issue there, but that gives us a little bit more physical guy in there that can again, he's a combination of a Sam and a nickel that we at times may not have to substitute. And I think he'll be a good blitzer too, bringing a guy off the edge.
What are you looking for out of the running backs this spring with Tally having graduated and then new running backs coaching here?
Well, I think I thought the one thing that you go back and we went back and looked at all those. Taliaferro had a tremendous year for us. You go back and it was kind of a quiet 1,200 yards or whatever he ended up with, and at the end of the day, you go back and look at those cut-ups. He was a very productive football player that did a great job with protection, of sticking his nose up in the A-gap and blocking backers and protecting Cato, and he became a really good all-around back. Those other guys are talented backs, but they got to become good all-around backs like Taliaferro did. I mean, they got to be able to protect, they got to be able to take care of the football, and they got to be able to, the actual making plays in space and running with it. That's easy for those three. It's the other aspects of being a great running back, which is toughness and protection and securing the football and doing all the things that great backs do. So they just need to become more complete backs. And Chris, Barkley, I'm glad he's here. He may have been as complete a back as there was in the ACC, maybe one of the best or the most productive back ever in the history of the ACC. I mean, was player of the year in the ACC at Wake Forest, did a great job taking care of the football. So I told him when I hired him, just make sure them guys are like you and play like you did. So whatever that means, we'll see if we can get that done.
Now, were you in NC State when he was away?
I was.
Okay.
I think we beat him every year we played him too. But no, I don't. Yeah, he was a tremendous back. He was a tremendous back.
Is Grooms going to be available for the spring? And if not, how does that?
No, Grooms will play. He'll practice spring.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll practice.
Well, with Grooms and Butler both, I mean, both of them had issues, whether it was confidence or anything. Talk about Tally's consistency a little bit and how you'd like to see them fit that mold with the consistency.
Yeah, that's just what I just talked about. I mean, just work every day on becoming a more complete back. And both those guys are a lot stronger than they were this time last year. They're more physical. They weigh a little bit more, and they all have the talent to be a complete back like Tally did. And Tally just grew up. It wasn't just his athleticism and his toughness, but the leadership he provided. I mean, it was great as a coach, and you guys probably saw it, is watching those seniors, and I've said it many times. Those seniors a year ago played their best. You go down that senior class that we lost, and a lot of them weren't tremendous, not NFL players, but they played their best football. From Matt Pickett, who you guys may not even noticed out there. I mean, he was a tremendous asset to us on 3 or 4 special teams. He was like the captain of the punt team. He played his best football, and he probably wouldn't even notice, but he played and contributed more than he ever had all year. And Bazzie, I mean, that bowl game he played was tremendous. I mean, but he just played what a high motor, and he played his best football. Brandon Sparrow did. Pac-Man played his best football. Talaferro came in and had his best year. Gator had a tremendous year. There wasn't one of those seniors on that football team that didn't have their best year of football at Marshall University. And the same thing for us to go where we want to go this year. That senior class that we have, the Rouses and Malcolm Strong's the guy that we're pushing to do just what Pickett did. I mean, to contribute in some way. But all those seniors have to, Cato and Schuler and Jaspers and all those guys have to play their best football ever. Swag, Darrell Roberts, and Jermaine Holmes. We're going to be, hopefully if I'm sitting up here next year, that said those 10 or 12 guys played their best year, then we've had a hell of a year just like we did a year ago, and that's what has to happen. That's what the leadership's all about, and what growing as a football team and a player is all about.
Especially at a time in Marshall football, can this be if every year you're saying the senior class had a better year than one before?
If you do that, then that's what it's all about. I mean, we're getting to the point right now we're talking about seniors. First 3 years over here, we didn't have any senior to talk about. To be honest with you, I mean. Last year was a great senior day because a lot of really good players ran out there and I got a chance to shake their hand. The year before, hell, I didn't know who they were. They ran out there. We had 1 or 2 ran out there, 2 of them were on crutches or whatever, so we didn't have any. So we're getting to the point now where, we got a good senior class. We'll have a good one this year, and we'll have a good one next year. And when you become pretty good, that's what happens. And hopefully we're at that point where that can continue to do that.
Who are some of the guys that aren't going to see action this spring, getting their bodies right for the fall?
I think I could miss somebody here, but Tyler Combs, I think, is one guy that won't practice this spring. He had ankle surgery off season. Am I missing anybody, Jason? I don't. Neville Hewitt, he'll be out there, but he'll miss a few things. He's just got a couple weeks, but he won't do a lot. I think other than that, Stanley's good to go. Kent Tureen. You're right on it. Yeah.
He's just been fit.
He has. And Kent, he's done a tremendous job academically. He's got a great attitude. For a guy that was as highly recruited as he was, and to come in and have as many, unfortunate injuries that he's had, he stayed positive and he's working his tail off, and he'll get a break at some point. And he needs one because he's gone through an awful lot.
I think the team chemistry is pretty good, not only with the players themselves, but with the players interacting with the coaching staff, being that the coaches have been here now instead of a year ago where, like, who's that new coach out there? Half these guys aren't.
At least know their names now going into spring ball. But no, it's great. I mean, and it's been great not to have to replace a whole staff. I was looking. I think we replaced 16 or 17 coaches or whatever it's been, and it's been unbelievable. And I told anybody wants a job, just walk through my office. If you want a new job, walk through there and you'll get one the next year. You'll get a call or something. But we've had 16 or so. But these, again, not to have to replace half the staff is the continuity's been great, and we got a great staff right now. I like what this staff's all about, and really excited to have 2 years in a row with all but one.
personnel and your staff, the fewest question marks you've had probably since you've been here.
Probably, yeah. I don't think there's any question that, don't get me wrong, we got a lot of work to do, and we got to get a lot better as a football team, but we don't have near as many question marks, and there's just certain areas that we need to, get more develop more depth, and again, a couple young players need to become accountable and step up and become players, and that's what needs to happen this spring.
Yeah, I like Keith Baxter coming back. I know that he wasn't in last year at all. How does he figure into the mix of DB this year?
Well, he's a talented guy, but he hadn't done anything. I mean, he's a talented guy. He's a little bit like Terrain. I mean, he's been hurt since he's been here, and there's not a more talented defensive back on this football team than what Baxter is physically, but potential gets you beat. I mean, you can have there's a lot of talented teams out there that don't win a whole lot of games because they're not very productive. And to this point, he hadn't been very productive. And he's a talented guy that needs to stay healthy and needs to go out and compete and get coached. And if he does that, he's got a chance to help us because he's a talented guy. There's no doubt.
We all know how good Tommy is. Who is out there is right on the verge of being the next big target for Cato to take a lot of pressure off of Tommy?
I think Reeves is a tremendous football player. I think probably didn't play him as much as he should a year ago. Tommy needs to sit over by me a little bit and watch and let Reeves go play some because he's good enough to play. And he's a guy that's good with the ball in his hands. And I like him a lot. I like Deontay. We got just some of those outside guys. I'm anxious to see Angelo, what he does. He's a talented guy. We got to get him in there. Wilkins has to step up. Devontae Allen, he's a talented guy that a little bit like Baxter. He hadn't done much, but he's very talented. So there's 4 or 5 of those wideouts that need to step up and become players for us. And then Devin Johnson, tight end's a talented guy. He's just got to continue to grow. Frohnapel's back, and then McManus, we got to see what he can do. He looks the part, and I told him he could be the first one getting off the bus because he's pretty, but he hadn't done anything. I don't know how tough he is, but he's a guy that can run and catch and looks good. So we'll see how he does, but he looks like he can play a little bit.
He's one of those kids that you can sort of shift around to different spots too, isn't he?
Well, he's athletic enough to, he was a wide receiver in high school, and I told Mike the other day, I said, there's nothing wrong with having a 6'3", 235-pound wide receiver if he can run and go get it. So, if he can play outside, we can put him outside at times and flex him out and do some things with him. So we'll see. And Devin Johnson's a guy that can run a little bit too. So just get him on the field.
We were talking about the receivers. Cato had a real comfort level, I think, with Gator. He knew pretty much some games looked like he could have hit him whenever he wanted to.
Yeah.
Are you looking for that kind of development out of a tight end, especially, or just any other receiver?
I think that tight end position, because you got a bigger body in the score zone, the red zone. That's where Gator was productive. Gator was productive a lot of places, but really in the score zone and the red zone, Cato found a way to get the ball to him. And number one, because he's a big body and he's athletic. Well, McManus is probably a little bigger than Gator, and and probably maybe a little faster. And then of course Devin Johnson is as athletic as what Gator was. So both those guys will give us that type of body. But Gator had, there's a lot of things in football when you talk about all the time. They got the it factor. Just good football players. Tommy Schuler, you're going to put a watch on him, and he's not very tall. He's not very physical. Doesn't run very fast, but all he does is make plays. And that Gator had that it factor. I think Devin Johnson, I think we've seen enough of him that he's got that it deal, that it factor. I don't know if McManus does or not because he hasn't been out there yet. I hope he does, because if he does, he could be a really good player.
Cato and Devin sort of seemed to get that connection too towards the later stages of the year. He came up with some pretty big catches.
He did. He came up with some big, East Carolina game. He came up with some big, and he came up with some big play. He's a guy that he gets that ball in his hands. He can run. He's probably a little faster than what Gator was. So he's a talented young player that needs to get better.
One name that hardly gets mentioned, and he played as a true freshman last year, is Josh Knight. Where does he figure in?
Those two young receivers, they're all kind of in a group there. You got Josh Knight and you've got Justin Hunt, kind of in the same mold. They both are talented young guys that need to step up and become players. Those are kind of two of the guys I'm talking about. And Allen and Knight and Hunt and Wilkins and and Austin and and Angelo are all guys that are on the outside that somebody needs to step up and be able to go make plays. And I think there's no doubt there's enough bodies there that are athletic enough that they just got to do it. And we're going to work extremely hard challenging those guys this spring to come out of spring ball with and I thought towards the end of the year now those guys made some plays now, but that become dominant outside receivers. We need that to happen.
Well, for home tonight, this is their first spring. I mean,
It is.
They
It
came
is.
straight out of high school last
And it's
year.
hard. It's hard for freshmen, unless they're just tremendous players to go in and play as freshmen. And we had a few of those guys a year ago that weren't quite ready. And you can hopefully get to the point where they sit over and watch as freshmen and then go play the following year, but that hasn't happened yet.
What about Cato? What do you want to instill in him this year that he could, obviously he's already got his name up there among the greats.
I think, I don't think you ever stay the same. You get better, you get worse. I think you've got to continue to improve or you're going to get worse as a player. And he's got to go out. One thing about him, he loves to go play. He's going to be mad at me during practice because he's over watching, because he's going to want to be in there and competing, and that's okay. But I just think I think we can all, as coaches and as players, every day we go out there, get better as a player and a coach, and that's got to be his mindset to do that. I mean, the leadership part of it, the intangibles, just becoming, having a better, understanding of our offense and everything that we're doing in the meeting rooms and all that. There's no doubt that he can improve every day, and he will. I mean, he loves football and he works the game, so he'll get better. But just get better. Just walk off that field again every day a better player than you walked on it, and we got a chance.
The Catos, the Schulers, the Jaspers, how much do you all put a coaching hat on them this spring and just say, hey, you know what, you might be just as important to us coaching up these young guys as out there taking reps?
But that happens. I mean, if you go watch our practice right now, that's happening every day in practice. I mean, that's what they do. That's what good teams do, and that's what when those guys take ownership in their football team, which happened a year ago. Go down and watch that defensive line work, and you're going to see Rouse and you're going to see Myers, and you're going to see those guys coaching as hard as JC and Sean. I mean, they're coaching those guys, and Cato's going to be coaching those guys, and Schuler. But when you become a good football team, that's what's happening out there. We don't get me wrong. Our coaches are going to coach, but they're getting as coached by their peers as they are the coaches, and that's when you stand back as a head coach. You feel pretty good. You got a chance because you're starting to develop and do what good football teams do.
As well as Rouse played last year, where do you feel he can even further kind of develop?
I think his lower body strength was something we've worked on hard in the offseason. He had the Achilles, he's had the back, and he's had those issues, and he neglected his lower body at times in the offseason and in the weight room because of it. But he's got through a whole offseason of his lower body work. He's tremendous, got great strength up top. And he's one guy that you're going to see. He's probably not going to get a lot of work this spring. He's going to coach a lot and get a lot of individual, but he's not going to see a lot of reps. He's been here 6 years. He's older. He's up there, so we're going to kind of limit his reps this spring.
Talking about Jaspers, but big spring on the comeback trail for Cam Dees, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's another guy that's been bitten a little bit with and that red shirt a year ago was good for him, but he's been a guy that's kind of been injury prone. From a little bit too, so it's important that he has a great spring, and that'll help us inside because, him being able to go in and play center a little bit will allow us to, get Jaspers out the guard a little bit and do some things there to help us with some depth issues too.
That was a nice thing about Cam is you knew that from his freshman year, so okay, I know I can get, quality reps out of him.
Yeah.
Or you lost for last year, but coming back in, this is a guy that you can count on.
He started some as a freshman.
Exactly.
He shouldn't have, but did. I mean, and on a pretty productive offense. So he's played and very smart, very tough. What we want in our offensive linemen, and that again allows us to move Sweet out to tackle by having the D's. And Selby's played an awful lot of football a year ago in there too. Cheese played a lot. So I feel pretty good about that inside. We just have to develop some depth at tackle. And Van Horn had a tremendous. He may have been the best offensive lineman in the conference towards the end of the year. And he's back, and then the Swede there at tackle is pretty solid with those first two. But we got to develop a couple of backups that we feel can go in there and play.
Yeah, speaking of Van Horn, that was a kind of an ascension in the middle of the season with Jordan going down. And how do you think maybe his perspective changes now that he walks in and he's walking in as the guy considered the starter at that spot.
Well, I think if anybody knows Van Horn, he goes to work every day now. I mean, that guy, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but those kids, I mean, if you sit and talk, that kid's an amazing guy. I mean, talk about a guy who goes to work every day, whether it's classroom, whether it's off the field, whether it's in a weight room. He gives it everything he's got, everything he does, and so he ain't gonna change. I mean, and he's another guy. When I talk about leadership, that's just done as good a job as anybody. And that offensive line, for 2 years I said I didn't like him. I didn't, but because I didn't have Van. You look at that offensive line right now. They all love football. They're all extremely tough. They all love the game. I mean, you take a look at Van Horn, Jaspers, Selby, Dees, Swede. I mean, all those guys are guys that football is important to them. They love to play, and they're just tough. And Cheese. I mean, they're all just what we're looking for as an offensive line. And for 2 years, I didn't walk in that room because I couldn't stand them. Now I spend time in that room. I like going there and watching Coach Mirabal teach. He's a great teacher. I like being around those guys because they're fun. They like football, and it's a great room right now. And then you get a room like that. Now you add the Cody Collins and the Sandley, Gene Louise to it, and you add all those young players. It just rubs off on them, and it's a fun group to be around right now, and they're good players.
How much promise did when I look at Selby and Cheese, the thing I thought was that military bowl in that one drive where in the beginning the offense wasn't rolling, and then all of a sudden you put them in like the third series, I guess, and they just start blasting people off the ball. How much did that give you kind of, I don't want to say the words hope or promise, but when looking into this season, it's like, yeah, I could put those two guys at the guards and I should be all right.
Well, and you didn't mention Mendelson was in there too. Mm-hmm. So we lined up, I think, this third series with Mendelson, Cheese, and Selby. So those are three guys that hadn't played a whole lot that went in there, and I had my eyes closed on those first couple on the sidelines. I didn't know what was going to happen, but they played well. So that's good. I mean, it gives him a lot of confidence too. Cheese came out of that game feeling real good about himself, and he feels really good by himself right now, as they all do. So I think there's no doubt that that's going to help us.
Are you going to have a legitimate field goal battle? Can Curry match Haig?
Can he? You know what? We're gonna have whether it be Curry and Haig, and we got several other guys that we're gonna have the opportunity to kick. We got to be able to at some point from the 25 to the 35 have confidence of kicking the field goal, and we'll just let those guys battle out this spring and see. But I'm anxious to see all those guys, and we'll start that from day one with a little bit of competition there, see how that goes.
Likely going to be a scenario where, okay, Haig is our short distance field goal kicker, and maybe a Curry or a Vedvik or Smith steps into that long distance role? It
could. I mean, it could. We'll see. Just again see how it goes, and the good thing is I don't think we have to worry. But we're not going to be talking about our kickoffs this spring, so we'll be able to work that part of it. I think solved. So we'll get that fixed, and we'll just get this field goal thing fixed. We'll be good.
Looking back on it, how understated was the kickoffs that the guys weren't beating the crap out of each other on special teams last year? They were able to get touchbacks and not have to go through the rigors of trying to chase guys down.
Well, just the field position that it set the defense up with. I mean, we went from last to first in the league in kickoffs, and it was huge because of the field position part of it, and just him being even when they were returnable. The hang time and the ball placement was at a point that we covered really well. So, and we had better players covering. We had better football players running down on that, as well as our punt coverage and that type of thing. So overall, our special teams, when you did a breakdown of all four phases, we were by far number one in the league as a group in special teams. Now, we're not where we want to be. We had, our punt was not number one, but we were in the top 3 or 4 in every phase of special teams throughout the year, which was good, and we just got to continue to get better in all 4 of those phases too. Anything else? Set on practice times, Jace? We all good?
You were good though, so.
Okay. Thanks.